People today, actually the majority of people today, tend towards deism and a minority to atheism. Atheism being the belief that there is no God. Right? Atheism has always been a fringe belief amongst humans. Historically, you go through these countries of the world, archaeologically, etc., finding people who as a people disbelieved in God, you can't find them. Nowhere in the world did they exist. It's only in the 20th century with the rise of communism that you actually found a nation, promoting the idea, Russia, then China, then some of the European states, Vietnam and others, promoting the idea that there is no God. That is a part of communist ideology. So something recent.
In general, the idea of blind faith, the very idea of blindness is negative.
Well, maybe that's the wrong word, blind faith. Maybe it's just faith.
Yes, I mean, I use the word blind because it is in the absence of evidence. If it was in the presence of evidence, then you wouldn't call it faith. You wouldn't need faith if it was something. I think you made that point yourself.
Why did they become an atheist? To try to reach them, you need to know why. Find out what's at the bottom of it, because it's unnatural. That's how we should look at it. It is something abnormal and it's unnatural. Though when they try to present it, they try to present it that it's normal and natural. Really, in fact, it's quite logical and reasonable. That it is the belief in God, that is what is unreasonable. They say, you people believe in God, this is by your blind faith. You blindly believe. You have no evidence, you can't prove this, and it's illogical.
The only argument for atheism is the absence of evidence for God. But the problem here is that the absence of evidence is not necessarily evidence of absence.
Where did logic come from? When you go to university and you take a class in logic, who do they teach you about? The Greeks. That's who they go back to, the Greeks. Logic, the rules of logic, when they teach you, there's certain rules of logic. Who laid down those rules? The Greeks. It's known that the laws of logic were laid down by ancient Greeks. Not to say that people may not have done it before, but as far as historically, archaeologically, those are the earliest records of it. Laid out systematically, the Greeks, known for their logic. The point is that the Greek logicians, Plato, Aristotle, Greek philosophers who used their minds to understand the world around them, what did they conclude? That there was no God? No. Aristotle and Plato and others concluded that there has to be a God. So if it was so illogical, how could the masters of logic come to the conclusion that there has to be a God? When we see design, we assume that it was created by a designer.
The obvious, which is that the universe is finely tuned by an intelligence to sustain complex life. An intelligence that must be beyond the constraints of time and space. When I was an atheist, I saw planet Earth as being one of probably billions of planets just like it all over the universe. I saw our sun as being an average, undistinguished type of a sun. I figured as I looked up at the stars at night that there must be millions and millions of advanced civilizations out there. I just thought there was an ordinariness to our situation. This line of reasoning was totally consistent with my atheistic worldview. But what I learned later is it is not consistent with what science is revealing about the Earth.
For more than a decade, Guillermo Gonzalez has researched the characteristics of a planet required to support complex life. Estimates vary, but a current list of these factors would number at least 20 and include an oxygen-rich atmosphere, a home star of the right temperature and mass, an orbital path that is neither too far nor too close to the home star, a moon large enough to stabilize the tilt of the planet's axis and the movement of its tides, a magnetic field strong enough to deflect the sun's radiation, and a position in the relatively narrow habitable region of a spiral galaxy.
All these factors have to be met at one place and time in the galaxy if you're going to have a planet as habitable as the Earth, which you need for complex and even technological life.
Theorists have attempted to calculate the odds of all the necessary factors for life appearing at the same time on the same planet. A conservative estimate is 1 chance in 10 to the negative 15th, or 1/1000th of 1/1,000,000,000th.
The DNA molecule and its language of life.
The discovery of the information-bearing properties of DNA and RNA is a fundamental challenge to all materialistic theories of the origin of life. Neo-Darwinism and its associated theories of chemical evolution and the like will not be able to survive the biology of the information age.
Where did the information in DNA come from? How did it arise in the first place?
There is only one known cause for the origin of information, and that cause is intelligence. Whether we're looking at a hieroglyphic inscription, a section of text in a book, or a computer software, if you have information and you trace it back to its source, invariably you come to an intelligence. Therefore, when you find information inscribed along the backbone of the DNA molecule in the cell, the most rational inference, based on our repeated experience, is that an intelligence of some kind played a role in the origin of that information.
The implications of the scientific evidence, coupled with Mayer's logic, are profound. If we are finding information inside every cell and every living creature, could that not be, in a sense, the signature of a creator? Sometimes we just have to kind of take our blinders off and get beyond our presuppositions and say, wait a minute, I am going to pursue the evidence of science wherever it points. And if it takes me to a very uncomfortable conclusion that there is a creator, then if the evidence points in that direction, that's the way I'm going to go.
According to a lot of mainstream media, the theory of intelligent design is a faith-based idea. And in saying that, they want to dismiss it as something that has no basis in science. But the theory is not based on theistic belief. It's based on the discovery of digital code in cells, miniature machines in cells, the fine-tuning of the laws of physics and chemistry, and standard ways of scientific reasoning about the remote past in the history of life.
You don't have to commit intellectual suicide to come to the conclusion that there is an intelligent designer. Because today, science is pointing more directly and more powerfully toward a creator than any other time in the history of the world. I was trained in journalism and law to respond to truth. I had to take a step of faith in the same direction that evidence is flowing, which is logical and rational. We do that every day of our life. We make steps of faith based on the evidence that we perceive. And so it was the most logical and rational step I've ever taken to put my faith in the creator that science tells me exists.
So the argument from design indicates really there had to be a designer. And that is, as I said, the most common argument.
If you look at the details of biochemistry and molecular biology, you might find a signature of some sort of designer.
Wait a second. Richard Dawkins thought intelligent design might be a legitimate pursuit?
And that designer could well be a higher intelligence from elsewhere in the universe.
Well,
but that higher intelligence would itself have had to have come about by some explicable or ultimately explicable process. It couldn't have just jumped into existence spontaneously. That's the point. A higher intelligence from elsewhere in the universe.
But you're crazy to say it's God.
Heavy, heavy, heavy.
Yeah.
Yes, you can say it's anything you want, man from outer space, Martians, anything you want, but not God. It cannot be God.
Right.
It's not allowed to be God.
So when we deal with atheism, know that this is a fringe group, a group whose minds have become so darkened you know, in terms of the light of faith and knowledge, right? Their minds have become so darkened that they reach that state.